Hi, this is Deborah at the Labyrinth, and this is a continuing series on Wicca. And before we get started today, I would like you to please hit the like button and also hit the subscribe button, and please leave a comment. On this Wicca class today, we're going to go over the source of creation and overview, and then also on the Wheel of the Year, which you can see behind me, of all the holidays, which is the Sabbats, and also the Equinoxes and the solstices. So stay tuned. Last time we went over what we were going to cover, and we went over the concept of divinity. I just wanted to show you a little chart here. This is just a little example. Maybe this can help clarify. This is the source of creation. Most people call that God. And then we have the goddess and the god, which are aspects of the source. And if you put the god and the goddess together, it creates the source. And then on this side, we have the pantheons, which we're going to get into in a little bit in the next video. But for here, I'm just giving some examples of that. The goddess corresponds with the moon, and then the pantheons, different pantheons, which would be Celtic, Egyptian, Nordic. So here we've got Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Freya, and Bridget, just to give a few examples. And then the god, we have the correspondences of the sun, Apollo, Pan, Odin, Lu, and Hades. So this is just a little overview so that maybe that you can understand the concept of divinity and how Wiccans look at divinity. The aspects here, or the gods and the goddesses, contain different correspondences, not everything of the source, but just certain things. Just like in the Roman Catholic faith, we have saints that have different qualities. It's the same thing with the gods and the goddesses. So I just wanted to clear that up and give you some additional information. Today we're going to go over the Wheel of the Year, which behind me you can see it's a wheel, it's a circle, and we have different dates here of solstices and equinoxes. And the 4 greatest Sabbats, and then we have the 4 lesser Sabbats. So there's 8 holidays altogether. So Wicca is a religion where the goddess of fertility and the god of nature are worshipped. It's a new religion from the 50s, but its roots date back much further than that. It's derived from the Druid, ancient Celtic, and Golden Dawn. It also incorporates folk magic. It's a blending of ritual, magic, empowerment, and we celebrate the Wheel of the Year. And we are co-creators with divinity. We're not saying to divinity, hey, come here, help me with that, and if I've been worthy, and if you have time, maybe you'll get to my request. Well, with Wicca, we don't have a middleman here. We don't have a priest that we go to or request a prayer and throw it up there and wait. No, we hold hands with the source of creation. And if everything is aligned correctly, we can create opportunities for ourselves as well as others. So with Wicca, we have rituals, and that is a set a set format in how we do our prayer and worship, and also our work, which would be magic, meditation, healing, things like that. So the Wiccan rituals are the full moons and the new moons, which are 13. And then we have 8 holidays on top of that, which really crams in there. Like I said, Wicca, I think, is more, you have to be more responsible with Wicca than any other religion because there's a lot to do. So the 4 greater Sabbats are, on February 2nd, we have Candlemas or Imbolc. And what that is Candlemas and Imbolc is hope for the new year. It's spring. It's also having a glimmer of hope for the new year. The light's returning, right? Because the God energy is growing because the God was born at Yule. That was in December, which we're going to get to that. Then we have May 1st, which is Beltane. And on Beltane, it represents the sexual union of energies between the god and the goddess. And if you look it up, you'll see the maypole, and you'll see the wreath on top of the maypole. That represents the phallic symbol of the male, and also the feminine part, which would be the wreath. And then the ribbons, the red and white ribbons, represent purity and then blood. Because, that's what happens when people get together, they have babies, things happen. So what it is with Beltane, it's a time of fertility. And it brings forth fertile intentions into growth in what you want to plan for the coming year or project that you have. So it's the time when the God energy is now focusing on the feminine energy and courts the feminine energy. Remember, we have energies that are polarities. We have an active and we have a receptive. Those two energies come together, they make something else. So with Beltane, it is the masculine energy that's now looking towards the feminine energy. Then we have Lammas or Lunarsah on August 1st, and that is the feast of Lu, which is the fertile god. And because the year now is starting to, the days are getting less and less in August, because we're coming up upon the fall equinox. So prayers are made to the goddess at this time at Lammas, because she goes from the earth goddess being on the earth to the harvest goddess of being to be fertile, because the goddess is all about fertility. Then we have Samhain, which is Halloween, which is on the 31st of October. And on the 31st of October, it's also a feast of remembrance of all those that have gone before us and now are resting in the Summerlands, which is, some people call it the Illusion Field, some people call it heaven, whatever you want to call it, before they incarnate again into a new body and a new life. It's one of the most somber Wiccan holidays on the wheel, and it's a time when the veil is at the thinnest so that you can communicate with deceased loved ones. It's also thought of as a dark time for the god, because the god is now in the underworld at that time, and he gets reborn again on Yule, which is in December. So the greater Sabbats are Candlemas, which is on February 2nd, Beltane, May 1st, Lammas, August 1st, and Samhain on October 31st. Now these are the greater Sabbats. The lesser Sabbats are the Equinoxes and the solstices, which are called the cross quarter days, because if you set them out here on the map here, they go like that. They're the cross quarter days. Those were the original ones years and years and years ago that people noticed, because it was done by the moon and the seasons. So the dates vary on the Sabbats, the four lesser Sabbats or the Equinoxes, because they vary between the 20th and the 22nd due to the planet alignment. So we have December, which is Yule or the winter solstice, and Yule is a midwinter celebration, and that occurs, and the goddess rules at that time. She's getting ready to give birth to the god, and it symbolized that the turning of the wheel of the year now from a dark time is now going to start turning into light. So it's the rebirth of the god. It's when the goddess gives birth to the god, and the goddess is in her mother aspect. It's the shortest day of the year, the shortest day, and the longest night, and that is on or around December 21st. Then we have Ostara, which is in April, and that's on or around March 21st, which is the spring equinox, and that's the reign of the goddess, where everything is fertile and growing and reproducing and giving birth and What it is, it's joy of you survived another winter, because years ago people died in the winter from being cold, being sick, being hungry. So you survived the winter, so yippee, it's now spring, we're going to celebrate. The god energy has also grown, because he was born at Yule in December, and now in the spring, he's becoming a man. He's becoming buff, okay? So the goddess now is in her maiden aspect, ready to get together with the god, you see those energies, and then give birth to something else. So it's a very, very happy time, Ostara. And if you look at the holiday in the Christian way of Easter, which is, by the way, named after Ostara, all the symbolism we have in Easter goes back to Ostara, which are the bunnies and the eggs and the flowers. All that growth and reproduction goes back to Ostara. Then we have Lunarsah, or the summer solstice, and that's in June. That is on or around June 21st. And this is the pinnacle of the rulership of the goddess energy. She manifests her fruitfulness in the fields and for harvest. The god is also at his height at that time also, so they're kind of even. It's the longest day of the year. The sun is at the longest day of the year. And if you look at it with the sun and the moon, you can see how things wax and wane, how they grow and how they shrink, how they shift. If you use the moon for that, it's a lot easier to figure out, okay, what aspect am I in? What's going on here with the seasons? So this is when we give thanks here, and that is for Lunarsah, the summer solstice. We give thanks to the goddess and the god for all the bounty that we have, and for the joy and happiness that we have in our lives. Then we have Mabon, or the fall equinox, and that's on or around the 21st of September, and that's the autumnal equinox, and that is when the harvest goddess is at her reign at that time. The harvest now, the crops are cut and they're called in, that's the harvest. Corn dollies were usually made in her honor at that time, and we have done corn dollies before. It's the stalk of corn, the last stalk of corn. You take the corn husk and you make a dolly out of it, and you throw it in the field. So when the field gets plowed, it is an offering, like a sacrifice, for a fertile harvest for the next year, because everything's been cut and plowed under. So the corn dolly is a representation of that offering for a fertile harvest for the next year, because the god dies at this point. The god energy goes away. The harvest is over. The god goes away. And that's when the god goes down into the underworld on that day. And the goddess is the one that actually does it. She goes, you, get down there now. You got to watch the dead people until you're reborn again in December. And that's what happens. The goddess stays on the earth the whole entire time. The god is the one that goes down and he comes back up. So we have all these cycles that are going on. So the 4 lesser Sabbats are the solstices and the equinoxes, which vary between the 20th and the 22nd of the month. We have one in December, which is Yule, or the winter solstice. We have Ostara, or the spring equinox, in April. We have Lunarsah, or the summer solstice, in June. And then we have the Mabon, or the fall equinox, in September. The only reason I'm telling you this is so that you can start to get a concept of the flow of the wheel of the year, because the wheel of the year shows us energies flowing and shifting and changing through the seasons. And that is a correspondence for you. We're going to get into moon correspondences and monthly correspondences, but that's an overall correspondence for the whole year. And it kind of looks like this. If you look at this, we've got Samhain here, we've got the equinox here, we've got Lammas here, we've got the summer solstice here, we got Beltane, this is the wheel, and then we have Ostara, and then we have Beltane, and then we have Yule. So this shows all of them, 8. It shows 8 of them. But the 4 here, that cross quarter, these are the equinoxes and the solstices, and then the ones in between are the other Wiccan holidays that were added in later. So this might be, and all this is going to be on the website for you to print if you want to. So I just wanted to give you an overview today of the wheel of the year and how we look at the year, and then a brush up on how we look at divinity. Next time we're going to get into pantheons according to different parts of the world. Different pantheons, how you work with pantheons and what they actually are. We're going to get into that next time. And then we're also going to get into your altar, because we need to start with the altar, because that's going to be a place for you to focus your energies on, to do your meditation, to do your prayer, and to do your rituals in front of your altar. So those are the next 2 things we're going to be getting into. Now, I just want to make a disclaimer here. I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know everything. I'm just showing you what I know. And if someone else has something else they want to add, fine. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible and not giving too much information, because it'll just, you get bogged down and you get confused. I'm giving it to you simple. You can also research on your own more in depth about these holidays and what is done at these holidays, because we have Yule coming up. Now, Yule, a lot of people think that Wiccans don't celebrate the season. Yeah, we do. We do. Guess where the Christmas tree came from? Wiccans. They would drag in some evergreen into the house because, it was kind of stinky and smelly with the animals in there at the time. And they would drag in evergreen and put it up. They would also hang the tree upside down so the tree would open so you'd get the smell. My husband calls it a huge, the Christmas tree that you hang in your car, one of those. Well, they had the real one. That's what they did. But they also did give gifts. At that time, if you research it, gifts were given at that time. They were usually handmade gifts and a token of appreciation to loved ones and family. But it was a feast. Everybody had a feast, and being thankful because the God energy is now returned. The light has returned from the darkness and is going to grow into hope when we get into February. That's when the hope comes in. But the God has been reborn. He came back from the underworld. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment. And I will see you next time, and thank you, and blessed be.